Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the MLSsoccer.com studios in New York City. We are here for a very special event, the 2014 MLS season kickoff Q&A with MLS Commissioner Don Garber. I'm Greg Lawless, Editor-in-Chief of MLSsoccer.com, and I am joined on my far right by MLS Commissioner Don Garber. Welcome.
Greg.
And Dan Quartermanch, Executive Vice President of Communications for Major League Soccer.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. We're excited. We have an innovative format for our folks today. In addition to our standard questions from the traditional journalists who cover the league on a regular basis, we also have asked our fans to submit questions via social media using the hashtag AskGarber. So we've got thousands of questions from our fans. We really appreciate the tremendous response. We've tried to aggregate some of those topics and put them together. So a lot of you will see your names, faces, and Twitter handles displayed on the graphics today. So we're ready to get started. Greg?
Yeah, and don't forget, you can actually continue to tweet using the hashtag AskGarber for some questions as we go live. All right, Commissioner Garber, let's start with a question that comes from @MHCoker. And this is, what are the specific metrics to determine a top league? This is relevant for what you have said in the past about how MLS, their goal is to be one of the top leagues in the world by 2022.
You know, first question, Greg, how come it wasn't asked at the Soccer Don? You know, you keep telling me I got to get out there and I get more followers.
Well, many people did use your handle at the Soccer
good.
Don.
You know, I've got a competition going with some
true.
friends and neighbors. But, you know, it starts with the basic tenet of what we're trying to use to measure our ultimate success, and then clearly our ability to be one of the top leagues in the world, starts with the quality of play. We are a soccer league. It is about the game on the field. It's about the passion of our fans. It's about the relevance of our clubs in their markets and the value of our enterprise. And I'll talk a little bit about each of that. But if you think about what makes great leagues great, they've got great players, their clubs matter, they mean something in the community. Hopefully, they're having some reasonable economics so that the league isn't struggling financially or upside down in terms of having too many teams at the top, et cetera. So our ultimate goal is to be a league of choice. If we become a league of choice for players, for staff, for fans, then I think we will have achieved that goal, a place where American and Canadian players want to play, top international players want to play, fans want to proudly say that they are a fan of this league, but more importantly, obviously, a fan of their respective clubs. When it comes to the quality of play on the field, there's been so much invested over the last number of years, particularly the last year with bringing guys like Michael Bradley and Clint Dempsey home, re-signing Landon, Omar, Graham Zusi. On the U.S. side, in order to be one of the top leagues in the world, you got to really be the top league in the region. In order to do that, we have to have the top players in our country really playing for our league. So it goes from American players, hopefully Canadian players, to top international players. Look at what's happened with the signing of Jermaine Defoe as just an example of that, getting big-time international players like David in 06 and beyond, like Thierry Henry and Tim Cahill. Now the newest big international player is Jermaine Defoe. When it comes to club relevance, I think this is something that we're really proud of. Our teams are getting deeper and deeper in their community. They're embedding themselves in trying to become relevant, becoming culturally important. And as our clubs continue to invest in that area, and many of them are doing a great job. Look at where we are in Kansas City. That team matters in that community. Seattle matters, Portland matters, Philadelphia matters, Toronto, particularly of late, matters. All of our teams are making progress in that area. You're going to continue to see investment as more and more of those teams become more and more relevant. Then obviously we get closer to our goal. Lastly, and this is something that is going to be a continual focus for Major League Soccer, we have to improve our financial condition. We've got to be in a situation where our clubs are making money, not losing money, so that we can continue to invest in this business, continue to build quality of play, relevance of our teams, passion of our fans in a way that ultimately will achieve their goals. Long answer to a short question.
Well, I think you actually answered a question that came from @Tavani, which was about what is MLS doing to achieve some of these goals. So let's move on to the next question. And this one comes from @24/7 Soccer US, and this has to do with young players and the development of players. And he says, how do you define success for MLS academies?
Well, you know, I think the broad way to approach that, Greg, is sort of how do we define success? Let's just start in the United States right now and leave our Canada friends and our Canadian teams aside just for the moment. We as a country have got to get better developing players. And the league is going to be a big driver of that. This past weekend, we spent time with the United States Soccer Federation, with Jurgen Klinsmann, with all of their coaches, with some of our technical people and coaches, with Todd Durbin and Jeff Agus and others that are in the league working in this area, to try to figure out what is that path to develop players better so that we have some top players in the world of top 20 or top 50 or top 100, something that you could argue we don't have today. The MLS academies will be a big part of that. Clearly, the U.S. Development Academy system is part of that. College is a big part of that. When we take a step back, it's not just the tens of millions of dollars we're investing in academies league-wide, U18 down to U15. It's our new relationship with USL Pro and trying to get those young kids who are coming out of academies or getting signed out of college and giving them opportunity to play every day. Can't be a good player unless you're in a competitive environment every day. And very, very importantly is working on our competitive infrastructure from a development perspective. Continue to work on coaching our coaches better so our coaches can coach our young players better. And trying to figure out other things that we can do to ensure that it's not just a numbers game. After all these years of having lots of academy programs, we only have a couple of dozen homegrown players, and we only have probably 20 or so that are playing in the first team. Some of them are great stars. Diego Fagundes is an example. Juan Agudelo is an example before he left. Zardes, Tiber are examples. But boy, we need dozens and dozens and dozens of players that have come up through the system, through our academies playing for our first team, before we know that program has been a success.
All right, next question comes in from @Daniel Ashford, and he's thinking about everybody looking at Brazil this summer. He says, what are the league and teams planning to do around the World Cup?
Well, you know, we think this is going to be one of those real transformational moments. We say this every 4 years. It certainly was in '02. It was in '06. Certainly Landon's Algeria goal became a social phenomenon that happened again in the Olympics with the U.S. hockey team. So those moments where you have something special that transcends sport, it's going to happen in the Olympics, and hopefully it happens, with the World Cup, hopefully it happens with our U.S. team. So the league is very, very active on the local level, on the national level. I'll give you a couple examples. Every club's going to have viewing events. Every club's going to get involved with their sponsors, with their players, and with their fans to get active in promoting and also engaging in during the time period of the World Cup. The league has its March to Brazil. You can just look at all the signage around us here, marketing campaign. You're going to see our players wrapping themselves in their respective country flags. So it is about club and country. That's going to be our theme for this year. It's a perfect theme for our March to Brazil. Not just about American players and their wrapping themselves in their flags. It's Tim Cahill and Robbie Keane wrapping themselves in their flags. So it's a big connection between our clubs and their national teams.
All right, another Twitter question. This is actually going to be several. We're going to go through a little bit of a lightning round around expansion because we always know that expansion comes up in these moments. And we're going to do this alphabetical order, so there's no priority in this at all. We're going to start with Atlanta. At MLS in Atlanta, when will there be an MLS team in Atlanta?
So let me just take a step back, Greg. You know, there will be a time, and that time is probably sooner as opposed to later, where we won't have expansion questions, where the league will be fully expanded. That's probably years from now. I remember in my former job when that league was going through expansion. Expansion was a big focal point of the league office. The media cared about it. Fans cared about it. People care about it now because it's part of the evolution of our league and of our business. But the time is going to come when this league is fully expanded. So I'll go click through in your rapid fire test on my knowledge of what's happening in each market. Atlanta, discussions with Arthur Blank and his family have been going on since 2008. Many, many years of discussions in Atlanta. We're getting close. There are ongoing discussions. There's not a rush to finalize something there. The new stadium that they're planning is likely not going to open up for a number of years. We do have a big game. I'll be down in Atlanta on Wednesday night when Mexico plays Nigeria in what will be the largest soccer crowd in Atlanta soccer history. A lot of activity there, massive changes demographically in that market. We're excited about Atlanta.
There's actually a follow-up to that from @RFA3 who wonders, do you have anything to say about the grassroots movement down there? He mentioned specifically Terminus Legion.
That's huge. I mean, Atlanta's got, I hear, 400,000, 500,000 people playing the game. So it's a market that needs a professional team at the highest level to be able to capture and wrap up and connect the dots between what has really driven success in MLS for many years. The grassroots market, those young people who've grown up with the game, and there are lots of people that are moving downtown, working for companies like Delta Airlines or Home Depot or Coca-Cola, and really feeling like they want to connect in their city to a sport they love, and they love the sport of soccer. So we're confident it's going to do really well there.
All right, let's go to Texas now. Austin and San Antonio. This is from @Briseño Leo. He says, a better expansion market, Austin with our growing innovative city, or San Antonio?
Well, you know, it's premature for both markets. So, you know, I've said in a meeting that I had this past weekend, expanding in Texas is something that's likely going to happen. Where that happens, when that happens, is still to be seen. We have been spending time, as our league will continue to do, to look at markets that have the right fan demographics, that have the right soccer interests, that have the right potential ownership groups, that have the right stadium plan. We will look at any market that has those that formula, because that's the formula that drives success in professional sports, not just in our league, but in any league. I'll be at South by Southwest speaking at a panel next week. I look forward to spending some time down there. Pretty cool place. I won't be wearing a pinstripe suit, but we'll be talking about soccer, and think about that South by Southwest is going to have a soccer panel. Mayor Michael Wilt has got some plans for downtown stadium. That's interesting to us, and clearly can't do this right without having the right stadium plan. Mayor Cole has shown interest there to try to see whether an MLS team makes sense. We'll continue to track it. San Antonio, I have been down there recently. Mayor Castro is one of the great politicians in our country. We love him, very passionate about our sport, a true new American, grew up Mexican-American guy. He's young, he played the game, understands how the demographics of his city could really embrace our sport in ways that would be special. And if you just look at what the Scorpions have been able to do, it's an incredibly impressive organization, a fantastic ownership group. I just saw that Eva Longoria just promoted some sign-in with her 8 million or 7 million Twitter followers that would get behind MLS in San Antonio. I think they had about 8,000 or so people you guys might know for a recent exhibition match. I think it was against FC Dallas this weekend or last weekend. So I think that the good things happening there, but we'll see.
All right. Cleveland, this is from @Phoenix7307. Will there ever be MLS in Cleveland?
Well, ever's a long time, Greg. But, you know, I said a lot that we need more teams in the Midwest. Many years ago, we've had discussions about a possible team there. There haven't been any discussions of late. What I would say to folks that are living in Cincinnati, the folks that are living in Dayton, folks that are living in Cleveland, support the crew. Great new owner at Anthony Precourt, a fabulous, fabulous dynamic that exists in that market. I would describe it as a rebirth, a newfound level of interest. Greg Berhalter is a super cool guy. He's got a lot of experience. We think he's going to represent this great new coaching dynamic, guys that have come out of our league. So if you're living in Ohio, support the crew. Great legacy MLS team.
Well, let's stay in the Midwest. This is about Detroit. @PunchedOutRadio asks, what could Detroit do to increase its stock among other viable Midwest MLS expansion options?
I know you threw this in because you're a Detroit guy. I was with your brother over the weekend, and we were talking about it wasn't Detroit, it was Ann Arbor, the great NHL outdoor game at the Big House. You know, Mike Duggan's a soccer fan. I mean, that's kind of a cool thing because there really hasn't been that level of support in that community. We've gone around many years with different scenarios there. We know that there's some interest. There haven't been any discussions. Not sure it's on the short list, but you never know.
Well, we'll stay in the Midwest, in the upper Midwest. This is from @TheWisco_Kid, who says, what are the plans for MLS in Minnesota?
Well, Minneapolis is on the short list. Lots of interest there. We've had quite a strong, high level of activity with the current Minnesota United, a strong ownership group, very passionate group of guys that are very embedded in the community. We think they're smart, we think they're focused, and they're great community citizens. They really care about their city, and a lot of their interest is not just about the sport, but it's really about, similar to what happened in Kansas City, how can an MLS team really enhance Minneapolis with another top-level sports team? So, you know, we'd like more teams in the Midwest. Minneapolis is on the short list.
Okay, two more quick ones here.
Too much expansion, man.
Too much expansion. We got two more. Everybody wants to know, and then we're going to get to the journalists. So North Carolina at Ethan Simi. What does expansion look like for North Carolina? It is a great college and USL system, but haven't heard anything.
Well, you know, we just hired a new president of our business group who's from Raleigh. His son, his son played at Duke. He was one of the founders of Castle. North Carolina is a market, even in my early days, back to 99, 2000, we've always looked around it because it is a hotbed soccer. The the complex that they have down there is a good one. I've heard the USL Pro owner there, the new Charlotte owner, has aspirations of being an MLS owner at some point. We'll monitor it. We've said we need to get south of Washington, D.C. Atlanta is a southern team. Florida, thankfully you haven't asked about that, but Florida is south of D.C., so who knows? Further expansion, but not sure Carolina's coming anytime soon.
All right, last one. We'll go all the way out to the West Coast. Sacramento. This is from @Anthony Buckley. Now that Sacramento Republic FC got the green light for a stadium, does this better their chances at an MLS expansion team?
Well, you know, I want to start by saying, and we met U.S. Soccer made a presentation on some of the things that were going on with the lower divisions, and I saw the new logo for USL Pro, the Republic team. I was told they had 4,000 or 5,000 season tickets. I mean, that's just fantastic. I would encourage every fan in that market, support the Republic, get behind it, build that team, build that brand, show that there's a real appetite north of San Jose for professional high-level soccer, and we'll see what happens. I think it is a great rival. You know, the U.S. Open Cup's going to have a lot more competition. I know a lot of these lower divisions are going to try to unseat the top division clubs, not any different than the FA Cup. So get behind the Republic.
All right, now we're going to hit the phone lines to go to our journalists. Our first four questions, we're going to go to Kyle McCarthy with FoxSoccer.com. We'll go to Ron Blum with the Associated Press, Jeff Carlisle with ESPN.com, and Adam Jardy with the Columbus Dispatch. So we'll kick it off with Kyle McCarthy with Fox Soccer. Kyle, go ahead.
Thanks, Dan. Don, there have been discussions this week between the PSRA and Pro about a new collective bargaining agreement for the referees heading into the season, but they haven't reached a resolution yet. Are you concerned about the state of negotiations, and does the league have any sort of contingency plans if the referees decide not to work this weekend?
Well, we will be opening up this weekend with referees, and we are absolutely in a position to have a contingency plan in the event that those discussions don't end positively, Kyle. You know, we have so many things that we're gearing up for with our 2014 season. Nothing is going to stop us from having a strong opening and to continue to grow this league.
Thank you, Kyle. We'll now go to Ron Blum with the Associated Press. Ron?
Hey, Don.
Hey, Ron.
Have you had all season to analyze the TV ratings from last year? What conclusions do you draw? How much is the regular season dip due to the post-Beckham? And what are your expectations for the ratings this season?
Well, you know, I'm going to not make any forecasts, Ron. I'll say very sort of openly to, we're in media discussions, as you know, and it's obviously a discussion point in our negotiations. You know, there have been so many things happening positively with the league as we continue to grow our league and grow the quality of play and build great facilities and have wonderful marketing programs and strong supporters. And our national television ratings have not grown at the same level. So we need to figure out why that's happening. Obviously, there's a lot more competition than there ever was. Viewers have more alternatives. We need to fight that, but accept it and address it by ensuring that we're making our players heroes and promoting them effectively and getting our teams to be more relevant in their markets and working with our broadcast partners to have a consistent schedule and a consistent level of promotion. One of the biggest challenges that we've had in the past, and we will solve that challenge with our new television deals, is that our games have been scheduled all over the week. It's been difficult, even if you work in the league office, to know what time and what day a game is taking place. So our new agreements will be very, very, very focused in terms of a specific date and time for what will likely be 3 new broadcast partners. So we are fortunate enough to have so many things going well and have great partners both in the past, and we will have great partners going forward that are willing to continue to work with us to grow this league and assure all of us that our television audience will grow over time.
Thanks, Ron. We'll go to our next question, which is Jeff Carlisle with ESPN.com. Jeff?
Hey, Commissioner. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
Along the same vein as the referee collective bargaining, I was wondering if you could let us know what the state of the discussions are with the players' union and if those talks have begun and what the status of those talks is.
Well, the discussions haven't started yet, Jeff. They will in earnest this year, clearly. This is the last year of our 5-year collective bargaining agreement. We've got a great relationship with the union. Bob Foose and John Newman, Eddie Pope have done a great job. There's a much better level of communication. I would view it more as us being partners in growing this game together. All CBA negotiations are tough, whether you're an emerging league like ours or you're the National Football League. So we're mindful, as are the players, that this will be a challenging process, no different than it was when we went through it 5 years ago. But I'm very confident that we, our owners, and our players are very, very committed to doing everything possible to ensure that we grow this league together.
Thank you, Jeff. Before we go to our next question, which will be Adam Jardy with the Columbus Dispatch, following Adam, we'll have Doug Roberson down in Atlanta with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. So we'll go back to Adam Jardy in Columbus. Adam?
Don, can you hear me?
I can hear you great.
Okay, great. You touched on this a little bit actually already in the Cleveland question, but when you look at the Crew and sort of this new era that they're describing it as, I wonder, when you look at a club that's had one owner until this point, in your mind, when you look at a turnover like that, what are your expectations for a new ownership, and what have your impressions been of, or your relationship, what's your relationship been like so far with Anthony Freeport?
Well, let me start with the relationship. Anthony's young, bright, committed, very, very, very focused. He asks a lot of questions. He's the perfect young owner in that he really wants to understand the business, loves the sport, truly loves the team and the city, and is going to do everything that he can to take a team that has been one of our legacy teams and has had great success on and off the field. Certainly our first soccer-specific stadium establishing the path that we're on today. And I'm convinced that Columbus Crew will be bigger, better, and stronger than it's been in the past. The fact that he was able to get Greg to come back from Europe and sign him as a coach, that was a big coup. Greg's not just a great coach, he's a really smart guy. And I think the two of them working closely with Mark, who's been around the block, will move the business forward, and hopefully they'll get it done on the field as well.
Thank you, Adam. We're going to go to our next question down in Atlanta, where, as Commissioner Garber mentioned, tomorrow evening, Mexico, Nigeria, more than 65,000 expected at the Georgia Dome. We're going to go to Doug Roberson with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Doug?
Sure, you need to bring a thick coat. It's cold down here right now.
Not as cold as it is here, big guy. 7 degrees.
Just a quick question for you. A lot of people in Atlanta point to the crowds that the Dome has gotten for the games that Mexico has played down here as evidence that the city can support a Major League Soccer team. And I was wondering if you thought that was a fair barometer of the city's desire to have a team, because Mexico, as you know, travels very well wherever they go.
Right. Well, this is part of a strategy, Doug. So we go into markets, and I think we've talked about it in the past. When we are looking at expanding in a market, the first thing that we do is work with a potential owner on bringing in big clubs. Big clubs are international teams and obviously big national teams. And if the market won't support Mexico, or they won't support Real Madrid or Man U or Tottenham or Bayern Munich, whatever it might be, then you're really going to have a challenge getting that market to support an MLS team. That being said, it doesn't mean that when you have 66,000 for a Mexico match, you're going to have an average of 25,000 for an MLS team. What it does show is that there are soccer fans in the community. And our strategy has always been to convert soccer fans that really care about the sport into being passionate supporters of a local MLS team. If you love the game, come out and support your local club. as opposed to just being a fan of an international club or league on television, or being a fan of an international club or team as an exhibition opportunity. Go out and be a fan of your local team. So Jim Smith, who used to be the general manager and president of the Columbus Crew, has done a lot of fan research. Arthur Blank and his folks have really looked at what could this mean for the community, and we've looked at what it could mean from a television perspective and from a expansion south of the border, opening up that part of the United States to us, and we think that we could connect those dots and be successful there. Now, we're still an emerging league. There is no single indicator that drives success, but I will tell you, if you don't have support for big games, you're not going to have support for an MLS team.
All right, thank you, Doug. Next, we're going to go back to social media for questions from our great fans. Once again, the hashtag is AskGarber. Greg, we'll turn it back over to you, and then we'll actually be going back to journalists later in the session. Greg.
All right, this one has to do with Chivas USA, who have obviously been in the news a great deal recently with the news that MLS has purchased the club. This is from @Tycho Blue. Is there a timeline for new Chivas owners?
So, no, there isn't, Greg, but let me take a step back. We said a year ago we would come up with a solution for our challenges with our second team in LA, and we've had challenges, and I think when you're running a young sports league, you've got to accept you're not going to get anything right. You got to be bold enough to make tough decisions, both going in and taking risk with those decisions, and you have to be man enough to be able to say we didn't make the right decision and come up with a plan to fix it. That's where we are with Chivas USA. We were lucky enough to have Nelson Rodriguez, who's a guy who's very close to me and to the rest of the league office, who's played the game, who's coached the game, who's been around every aspect of it in Major League Soccer and Soccer United Marketing for the last 14 years, to agree to serve as president. He's there now. Nelson will be the president of the club. Great opportunity for him to create some real momentum on the ground with a guy who knows what the heck he's doing. Lots of interested parties. We have not set a price for it. We're not decided how actually we're going to go about that process, because the first thing that we need to do is just get the ship back on path. That means having Nelson sit down with Wilmer Cabrera and his group and getting them confident and feeling secure, ensuring that we have the game on the field, product on the field right. It's ensuring that we can get a temporary continuation of a temporary facility. Hopefully that's the StubHub Center for a period of time. It means that Mark Abbott, our Deputy Commissioner, and Nelson will sit down and continue discussions with USC and other potential sites for a new facility, which I think would be a game changer for the club. And when all that's put together, we'll kind of bundle it all up and then take it out to the market.
And a follow-up on Chivas USA. This comes from @Puma2Hoya, and he says, is there a chance we see Chivas USA relocated?
No. One word.
Next, moving on. This is about NYCFC, who obviously are joining Major League Soccer in 2015. This comes from @Gene14800846. Interesting. Any word on the new stadium for NYCFC?
You know, no, Greg, there isn't. Boy, it's tough to get stadium projects done in New York City. Perhaps even a little more difficult now than it was maybe 6 months or a year ago. But boy, they've got a great team of people that are leading that effort, and they will continue to have discussions to find a long-term, permanent stadium opportunity. Short-term, you know, sometime soon they're going to make an announcement as to where they're going to play temporarily. They're just had a number of different marketing efforts going on. They've got submissions for a new logo that hopefully will lead to a launch of a new brand identity, meaning a new identity, logo identity, not team name, obviously, for the club. That'll be one of the first things that they get out in front of their fans on. Jason Christ just tweeted a picture that I retweeted this weekend of him over in the UK and getting his feet wet with the time that he's going to spend with the Manchester City technical staff. I think he and Claudio will put together a great team on the field. It's very exciting, like everything else, challenges, but it's going to be really cool when this thing gets up and running.
All right, one more here. This comes from @Augie Amoruso, who says, how is the MLS better now than when you first became commissioner?
Well, you know, that's probably a question that can be answered by fans and public. It's been a long time, so it really isn't obviously a single answer to that, Greg. So I'll pick 2 or 3 things that are probably the ones that we think about the most. We are a stable, viable, and productive entity where in 1999 or 2000, we were all trying to figure out what could this be and what would it be, and could we get through the next couple of years. We don't really worry about that today, albeit we are continually focused on trying to fix the economics that we have as an enterprise. We had a handful of owners, and today we have lots of them, more than I could mention. Very committed, very passionate. Many of them folks that have come into the league, and this is their sole focus. Merritt Paulson gets up every day and all he thinks about is how does he make the Portland Timbers and the Portland Thorns bigger and better. We have many owners that are like that. Clearly, there was only 1 stadium at that time. Now we have 14 of our clubs playing, 14 playing in 15 buildings. Dan, that's the right number? Something like that, but lots of stadiums. Probably most importantly on that area is the infrastructure has changed dramatically. And this might unfortunately be a long answer, Greg. I had lunch with Todd Durbin and Sunil Gulati with Jurgen Klinsmann over the weekend. And the big change that Jurgen sees in MLS today, even from a couple of years ago, is the training grounds are more professional. The opportunities for players from a nutrition and fitness perspective, the focus on medical testing, and just overall sports medicine has just so dramatically changed because we have the capability to be able to do that. Obviously, the competition has grown, the numbers of teams have grown, our referee community has gotten a whole lot better. We've got so many coaches that have come into the league that played in the league, and I think that they're adding a really fun, cool, and interesting dynamic around our technical committee. Rivalries today that we didn't have in the past. The supporters culture, probably the biggest change, frankly. I think the 2 are owners and fans. I mean, that probably should be that way. The supporter culture has been a game changer for us. You can look at an MLS game, look at some of these pictures, look at Timber Joey back there. I mean, this is a dramatically different environment, and we're proud of that. The media, to answer Ron Blunt's question, the journalists that we talk to, but most importantly, the guys who are making decisions on programming, they look at some of our stadium environments and they say they rival just about any soccer environment anywhere in the world, and that's pretty cool.
Now, we just got this in using the hashtag AskGarber. This is from @Taylor Cameron, who says, will the league address time wasting?
Well, that's a good question. It starts with, you know, our technical folks are a lot more scientific than people give us credit for. We produce a technical report that Alfonso Mandela does for every club that's this thick and reviews every single game, the number of touches, the number of shots on goal, the number of shots that, the number of touches in between play. You can't imagine the amount of data that we're using, both with technology but also with the fact that we're reviewing every game. And all of that goes into a report, and our technical committee sits down with our competition committee, and ultimately we make that presentation to owners to talk about our game. And one of the things that we're trying to move, in addition to scoring more goals, is the amount of time that the ball is in play. So while it might be 27 minutes for an NFL game, I think I got that right, it's more like 40 or 50 minutes for a soccer game. It's not 90, because there's lots of dead time in a soccer game as well. And we're working to try to improve that. Some of that is working on getting the ball back into play. Some of that, if you look at Henry, who's always counting down the seconds when a goalkeeper has the ball, it's all a matter of getting our players to care about it, our coaches to coach it, and actually to get our referees to enforce it.
Excellent. We're going to go back to the phone lines with our journalists for some calls. Our next five questions will go to Jonathan Tannenwald with Philly.com, Justin Block with Complex Magazine, Michael Rand up with the Minneapolis Star-Tribune, Dan McCarney in San Antonio with the Express News, and Ryan Lillis with the Sacramento Bee. Looks like a few more expansion questions on the horizon. We'll go to Jonathan Tannenwald with Philly.com. Jonathan?
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner, I'd like you to clarify something that you said a few minutes ago. When you were talking briefly about the TV negotiations that still aren't done yet for the new rights deals, I was wondering if you could update us a little more in detail on where those stand. And I think you said the phrase 3 new broadcast partners. Did I hear that correctly? And if I did, what does that say about the current partners?
Well, I think I said 3. And if you're going to renew a deal, it's still going to have to be a new partner. So I didn't say intend it to be we wouldn't have existing partners part of that, Jonathan. So I'll clarify that if it was interpreted incorrectly.
Probably new versus different might be the nuance.
Right. So, today we have 3 broadcast partners. We have 3 packages. And our expectation is that we will continue with those 3 packages. Who those broadcasters are, we'll wait until those deals are finalized. Discussions are going well. This is a sport that continues to grow. We are a package with the U.S. men's and women's national team and other federation programming. We just renewed our relationship, Soccer United Marketing's representation relationship with the U.S. Soccer Federation for another 8 years. So the package will be one that will be a joint U.S. Soccer, Major League Soccer package. It'll be exciting and innovative, and I think you'll see some things that are different in the new deal than there were in the old deal. But I'll clarify again, 3 packages, and we will have 3 packages in the market going forward, as opposed to, Jonathan, being one partner taking it all in English and Spanish language, for an example.
Right. If I can follow up real quick on that, is there a point in time by which you'd like to have this done?
Sometime before the start of the season next year. No. So the answer is there isn't a particular time. That being said, we've been in discussions, negotiations intensively for the last number of months. I don't expect that it's going to take very much longer before we're in a position to finalize a 2015 and beyond deal. Good question, though.
Thank you, Jonathan. We're now going to go to Justin Block with Complex Magazine. Justin?
Hi, Commissioner Garber. Thank you for taking the time out today. Just wanted to ask you about Toronto FC and Jermaine Defoe in particular. You alluded to this earlier, and we all saw the report that the rapper Drake actually made a call to Defoe to get him to come to Toronto FC. So it seems as if he's getting involved with them to an extent. How does the MLS overall view celebrity partnership marketing, and how do you think Drake in particular can help raise the profile of the club?
It's a good question, and I just read earlier today that a sports executive, one of the major leagues, just left his job to go run Rock Sports, Jay-Z's company. I mean, there is an incredible integration between sports and entertainment. I mean, here we are in the Kick TV studios, and you guys probably saw Jimmy running around Europe. I mean, you can't operate in the sports business and not recognize that you're in the entertainment business. Eva Longoria tweeting out, sign up for MLS in San Antonio, is another just example of how celebrity culture and sports culture sort of overlap and intertwine. David Beckham in Miami and his discussions with LeBron. Drake's relationship is not just with TFC, it's really with Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. And Tim Lewicki is the master at that, by the way. So I think you'll see more and more of this integration. I know that Steiniger out in Salt Lake, who came up with that great Salt Lake chant, who just was a season ticket holder, and to think about the fact that you'd have a guy that would be in an alternative rock band who would be a hardcore Rancid, right? Hardcore MLS fan, it just adds to a little bit of our credibility and frankly ties into that demographic which we are strongest in, and that's that young, call it millennial, that 18 to 30-ish year old person, cares about sports, music, what's hip and what's hot, like Greg and Dan.
Yeah. All right, thank you, Justin. We'll go to our next question. Up to Minneapolis with Michael Rand and the Star Tribune. Michael?
Yeah, you guys were correct. Another expansion question. Sorry, thanks, Commissioner, for taking the time. You mentioned Minneapolis on the short list, obviously, but in talking to some folks up here, there seem to be 2 potential divergent, almost, expansion groups up here with the United folks that you referenced, but also that Vikings group. that has some stadium clout here. Has one eclipsed the other, or just in terms of discussions, have you found yourself talking more to one or the other, or and a follow-up? Do you think MLS is ultimately more viable in kind of a soccer-specific stadium here, or in that new Viking stadium that's opening in 2016?
Well, you asked a bunch of questions there. I'll try to speak to each of them. I might speak around one or two aspects of that. We have had discussions with the Vikings, and those discussions had been going on for, probably started maybe a year and a half, maybe even 2 years ago, when they first started thinking about what their stadium opportunity was. And as you know, it was part of their negotiation with their public funding package that they would have the rights to at least negotiate on an MLS team if it were to play in that stadium. And I'm not sure whether that still exists or how that's viewed in the marketplace. The other group has been very committed to the sport, very committed to the community and what saving Minnesota United could mean to Minneapolis or to the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. They do have a soccer-specific stadium approach versus the Wilfs, who want to play in their larger football stadium. We'll continue to sort of evaluate our options there and ensure that we make the right decision when we're ready to make it. But it's really premature to say anything more than that at this time.
Thank you, Michael. We'll go to our next question out in San Antonio with Dan McCarney with the San Antonio Express News. Dan?
Good afternoon. Apologies, another expansion question, and you touched on a lot of, gave a pretty good overview of San Antonio in your opening remarks, but I was just wondering, could you speak to maybe specifically with your visit, kind of what stood out to you and how possibly their bid could be affected the Scorpions with the sound? It sounds like a group in Austin is exploring getting into that. And then two, with Minneapolis and Atlanta seeming like very good bids, but also the comment that expansion in Texas will likely happen. Can you envision going over that 24-team threshold by 2020 for expansion?
It's a good, very targeted question, and I can't answer it specifically because today our goal is to stop at 24 teams by 2020, but things have evolved over the last couple of years where the level of interest in expansion has grown as the league has become more popular and has shown that we can really deliver great value to communities in local markets. What struck me as really being very special is just Mayor Castro, and he is just a hungry guy. He reminds me of a young commissioner. Man, he just was really aggressively promoting his city and talking about how great it would be for our league and how important it is in driving a lot of the thinking and economics in that part of Texas and how rich it is from a diversity perspective. And I spent some time with folks that were city leaders and sitting with a number of people, including the Scorpion ownership. And, it's just a really vibrant place. The Scorpions, that's a special situation. Ownership is strong. The stadium's terrific. I think the whole concept of supporting philanthropy is unique. But I want to be very clear. San Antonio, as I told the mayor, has not really been super high on the league's list. It wasn't part of our original plan when we were looking at our 24. But life's a long time, and we need to continue to support the growth of this sport at all levels. And if there's a way that we could help NASL teams who are lower division clubs or the USL pro teams that are lower division clubs get bigger and stronger and get more support from fans and from municipalities and sponsors and broadcasters, that's a very positive thing for us at Major League Soccer taking a leadership role in trying to grow the game.
Thank you, Dan. We're going to go to our next question, and then we'll go back to some questions from social media. Our next question on the phone is Ryan Lillis with the Sacramento Bee. Ryan?
Hi, thanks for having me, Commissioner. You mentioned meeting with Mayor Castro in San Antonio, and I'm wondering if you've had any discussions with city officials here in Sacramento And what, in addition to the fan support here in Sacramento, what else you'd like to see over the next few years, whether it be from the city or from Republic FC, things you'd like to see over the next few years for Sacramento to be taken seriously as one of those expansion possibilities?
Well, our deputy commissioner and president has spent some time with Mayor Johnson. I just saw that somebody out there tweeted a picture of Mark and the mayor just last week as we were this news was buzzing about. The thing that I would try to instill in the minds of everybody in the community there is support the Republic. Show everybody in the soccer community in this country and certainly in California that the Republic can grow, that it can become very relevant in the marketplace, that the stadium can be bustling with passionate supporters, and that the corporate community would support it. If you get corporate support and public support, and you get the political infrastructure really believe that getting up to the next level is going to be important for all involved, then ultimately that's something that we really look closely to as an indicator of potential MLS success.
Thank you, Ryan. Now we're going to go back to questions from social media. Once again, the hashtag is AskGarber. I'll turn it back over to Greg.
All right, this one just came in, Commissioner. This is from Jeff Weiner. Any concern about disparity between big and small markets when it comes to signing DPs?
Well, you know, every MLS team has a DP today. So the question isn't signing a DP, it's probably signing what level of designated players. So I'd say to Jeff, every club has one, and there is no indication yet that spending a lot of money on a DP versus spending less money on a DP is going to be a recipe for being super successful on the field. I think when we originally created the designated player rule that I think you guys in the media called the Beckham rule, it was all about trying to get off-field success as opposed to on-field success. So we will continue to ensure that we have a system that is based on parity, that every team has an opportunity to win, that you could have a team like Salt Lake that is in the MLS Cup and has been one of the better performing teams in the last 5 or 6 years without spending significantly outside the cap. They ought to be able to do that. And by the way, that's not necessarily because they're a small market. Could be just because that's what their owners decided to do. Deloy Hansen's doing a great job. He's very passionate about his club. He just has a different philosophy than perhaps they do in New York, or certainly Tim does in Toronto.
All right, this comes in from @StewBrew. You mentioned a possible change in MLS playoffs. Does this mean it could be single elimination games?
Too early to talk about that, Greg. So I will tell you that we continue to look at playoff format every year. And I just, again, coming over here, I saw something that the NFL is looking at changing potentially where they're going to kick the extra point from, right? So that's a pretty instrumental part of the game. We're going to look at everything. We look at everything every year. That doesn't mean we come out of it with rule changes, but we will look at everything, including our playoff format, probably in particular our playoff format every year.
Okay, this one just coming in. I'm actually getting it just written down as we write it. This comes from Shaka Zulu. Is the homegrown rule in the academy system...
You're getting them in
what?
your ear?
Oh, it's the magic of television as it happens, right? Is the homegrown rule in the academy system diminishing the draft?
No, I don't think it's diminishing the draft at all. I think the college game, boy, I don't think this is the way they intended that, but I think the way I look at it is where does college soccer fit into the formula for developing players overall in our country, and where does college fit into the MLS picture? So I think as long as we are a country that kids are growing up and may or may not be professional and may have an opportunity to get an education, I think many moms and dads are going to have their kid get an education, and like you and like your brother, could come out of the college system and become great professionals, certainly more in the Big Red's case than in Greg Lawless's case.
Hey,
Just getting back at you a little bit.
We're all pros
there,
at some point.
So I think you'll see in MLS for the foreseeable future a lot of players coming out of college, and then hopefully we'll see a lot more players coming out of the homegrown academy system and then getting to play in USL Pro and getting better faster. And then at some point I do believe it'll come to a inflection point where we'll have to figure out whether or not we need to make some decisions. Again, I'll go back to my Jurgen lunch this weekend. Jurgen Klinsmann's got a son who's 16 years old. He's 6'4". He's one of the top goalkeepers in California, and he's looking at playing college. I think he just agreed to go sign and play at Berkeley, the alma mater of Deputy Commissioner Mark Abbott. So here's a kid that, and Jurgen mentioned at lunch, he didn't go to college, and he obviously could play okay. So this is a dynamic that's evolving in our country. I know Jurgen's got very strong views on it. I think over the next 10 years, we're going to have to see something change so that the college system hopefully can get aligned with what we in the professional business, what really in the development business, and U.S. Soccer from a development business entirely is trying to do, which is collectively work so we could win World Cups, because we haven't done that yet.
All right, time for a fun one. We heard the news yesterday that Chipotle has come on as a sponsor of Major League Soccer. Did you get a gold Chipotle card because of the agreement? And if so, have you used it yet? If not, can I borrow it? And that is from @JGramajo4.
So he probably works for Chipotle. That's kind of like the plan of having that, the selfie from the Academy Awards. That was a plant from a telco or a telephone company. No, I'm not actually, I haven't been there yet. We have a Chipotle right on 5th Avenue, a couple blocks away. I hope to get there soon. I don't know that I need the gold card, so if I get one, Dan, let's be sure we get it over to this dude and let him have my gold card.
Did you actually get it? Are we going to get gold cards?
Well, we got to make that happen.
That should certainly happen. All right, we have another one that just came in from @Josh Campbell. What is the league doing to broaden viewership, especially in the 13 to 26 age group?
Well, you know, it's very much about our marketing efforts. Look at, you know, the set we're sitting here is a set that many leagues have, but certainly we're very focused on, which is to try to bring the game to our fans who are engaging socially. That's why we're doing this format the way we are, who are engaging digitally. We have the highest incidence of percentage of our fan base that are following our games digitally, that are getting their newsprint via their news and information via digital means, that are active with their mobile phones. So you will see more and more activities with our apps, more and more engagement with MLSsoccer.com and with our Twitter handle and with our Facebook initiatives. So the way to grow our fan base in that community is to speak with technology and with a language that that community is engaging in, which is digital and social.
All right, this question is from SM Graph, and it's something that's brought up a lot and it's talked about on Twitter especially, which is, do you foresee a USSF-wide system of promotion and relegation being in place by 2025?
No.
Simple enough. Another one that's brought up, this is from @CP Wagner, is a single table format an option for MLS?
So it's funny, you know, now that all the questions are sort of more expansion oriented, the single table jockeys have sort of gone quiet over the last year or so. I think we have a single table competition with our supporter shield. And again, I just keep going back to, I was with the ownership of the Red Bulls yesterday, and they are proud of the fact they won the supporter shield. And in many ways, that's a single table competition. But it's not the only competition. We still live in a country where the playoffs skew or index from a television audience perspective, to Jonathan Tannenwald's question and Ron Blood's question, 2 or 3 times regular season television ratings. So if we're going to have a television product that's going to drive a lot of revenue so we can put that revenue back into growing this game, we're going to need to configure our competition so that broadcasters will get a larger audience. And larger audiences in pro sports today primarily are driven by playoffs. College competition's been around for 100 years and moving to a playoff system for football. They've had an enormously successful playoff format with March Madness. So we will always have playoffs. And what we have to do is get that fan who really is engaged with the game in Europe to really believe that that playoff system is exciting and is compelling and is an authentic for a North American sport. Because people in the U.S. and Canada follow a lot of major leagues, and those major leagues have playoffs or postseason competitions.
All right, that's it from Twitter.
Excellent. Well, we're going to wrap things up. We actually ran a little bit long with today's session. Final parting thoughts from Commissioner Garber. Anything to share?
Well, it's a little, I have a coach's call that I think was supposed to start 10 minutes ago. Good job, guys.
There you go. Greg?
Listen, we're just very excited for a great season. This is going to be a really an amazingly exciting year with the World Cup coming up. We got to really get behind our teams, not just the U.S. team, but all the other teams that our players represent with the 66 countries that our players come for. So the road to Brazil is one that we're excited about. A lot of great players, a lot of anticipation with new teams coming in 2015, new stadium coming in San Jose next year, hopefully a new stadium in D.C. sometime soon. So couldn't be a more exciting time for Major League Soccer.
All right, well, we want to thank you guys for coming into the MLSsoccer.com studios here to do this. A great event here. Commissioner Don Garber, EVP Dan Quartermont from Major League Soccer. I'm Greg Lawless from MLSsoccer.com. Do not forget, the MLS 2014 season kicks off on Saturday. Seattle Sporting Kansas City on NBCSN, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. That's when it all gets going. Stay with MLSsoccer.com for all the news leading up to the season and beyond as we push through on 2014. Thanks, everybody.